Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Bolling, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City. This is The Five. Well, it was the highest-rated cable news telecast of all time. Last night's Republican debate on Fox News Channel shattered all records with, get this, 24 million viewers, according to Nielsen, thanks in part to the media frenzy surrounding the frontrunner, Donald Trump. It started out hot, it heated up throughout the 2-hour event, and ended on a sizzling note. Here's Brett Baers delivering the opening salvo.
Is there anyone on stage, and can I see hands, who is unwilling tonight to pledge your support to the eventual nominee of the Republican Party and pledge to not run an independent campaign against that person? Mr. Trump. So, Mr. Trump, to be clear, you're standing on a Republican primary debate.
I fully understand.
This is what's wrong. He buys and sells politicians of all stripes. He's already,
Dr. Paul.
hey, look, he's already hedging his bet on the Clintons.
Just to be clear, you can't make the, we're going to move on. You're not going to make the pledge tonight.
I will not make the pledge at this time.
Okay.
All right, KG, it started out hot. Boy, really hot.
Really hot. But I mean, yeah, so great. This was a fantastic debate, a big win for the Fox News Channel. Both debates were outstanding, let's be honest, and very well done. In this situation, Trump saying that he's not going to make a pledge to support. Who's the nominee going to be? You don't know. Why would you make a commitment to support the nominee? It was like a two-part question. So you'd have to say yes to both parts if you were going to agree with the statement. So I understand where he's coming from on that. I didn't think that was that big of a deal. I think he's saying, listen, I'm going to wait and see what happens, how this shakes out, who's in fact going to be the nominee, and then make my decision if I'm going to in fact support that person. And the second part of the question was, then will you pledge to not?
But you understand that if he launches a third-party bid, Republicans are dead.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Unless he wins, of course.
Well,
I'm just throwing it out there. Dana, were you surprised that, not surprised that the question came out, but were you surprised it was open, the opening thought?
No, because I think it helps set the stage, because there's a lot of anticipation lead up to this debate. People have been talking about running for office for several months. In the last 6 months, we've had people get into the race, and then just additional ones in the last 2 weeks with Kasich and Gilmore. So I think that on people's minds is, okay, out of all of you, are we going to be a party that can unite, right? The methodology behind that question was, let's try to figure out, is everybody here going to be able to at least be here a year from now, back in Cleveland, supporting whoever it is on stage? I thought it was a good question to start off with.
Greg, based on Donald's unwillingness to commit to that so far, has he kept some of it in his pocket? Has he kept at least the GOP, the RNC, saying, we're not sure where he is yet, so we still need to, I don't know.
It cuts both ways.
Water that
it makes
plan?
it look like he's got leverage, but at the other time, it makes it look like he's out for himself. That's the problem. This was a stroke of genius, whoever came up with this question. It was like the Mad Max of debates. If you've seen the last Mad Max movie, it starts immediately, and for 2 hours, it didn't stop. I watched this for like 20 minutes, and I'm going, it's already the greatest debate I've ever seen. And they interrogated, everybody got tough questions. It was like the dental scene in Marathon Man. But can we just I want to bring up one person before we get even further. Lindsey Graham. What was that?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's like he wandered out of Twin Peaks in an episode of transient global amnesia. He walked into the wrong bar. It made no sense. My prediction is half the candidates that we saw last night will be doing reverse mortgage commercials by next June.
I knew
so
it.
watch out, Fred Thompson.
You know what Lindsey Graham was? Lindsey Graham was the exact opposite, the polar opposite of Carly Fiorina.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you think about it. She was concise. She was there. She was focused. And I'm not sure where he was. All right, let's move on.
Meandering.
Here are some of Trump's other memorable responses last night. Listen to these.
I don't think you heard me. You're having a hard time tonight.
All right,
When they call, I give. And you know what? When I need something from them with Hillary Clinton, I said, be at my wedding, and she came to my wedding. You know why? She had no choice because I gave. I gave to a foundation. I have never gone bankrupt, by the way. I have never. But out of hundreds of deals.
But, sir,
excuse me.
That's your line, but your companies have gone bankrupt.
What am I saying? Out of hundreds of deals that I've done, hundreds, on 4 occasions, I've taken advantage of the laws of this country. This country right now owes $19 trillion, and they need somebody like me to straighten out that mess.
So, Craig, a little of both. Some people are a little not loving this at the beginning, but at the end, he nailed it with that $19 trillion. I'm the guy who can maybe put a stop to that.
This is the interesting thing about it. It's like where I was watching it, we're all talking, and then when you know that they're going to Trump, everybody shuts up because he's going to say something crazy or wild or unsubstantiated or funny. I'm not sure that's the criteria for a president, but it's certainly a criteria for an entertainer. The wedding comment was hilarious, but it's like paying kids to come to your birthday party. Yeah. I mean, it's just a strange thing.
But he sees it as a business negotiation.
Yeah, I want you to come to my wedding, so I'm going to pay you. That's very strange.
Dana, your thoughts on the constant barrage? I mean, he got some heat-seeking missiles throughout the night.
From the moderators, well,
yeah.
I think that all of them would say today that they were they all got tough questions. But when you are in the lead,
he was the front runner.
You're going to get the questions, and plus he has said some things that deserve some scrutiny. And one of them being, I think his record. I think it's interesting on the bankruptcy issue. When Chris Wallace pressed him on that it's something that when he said everybody does it. It's like, well, yeah, but what about the creditors? When the creditors are actually the bad guys, that's what Occupy Wall Street thinks. So I thought it was pretty illuminating.
You know what I thought was illuminating here was that he dominated the time. You look at the time, he gets 10-plus minutes. Mm-hmm. The second person there is Bush, and he only gets 8:30. And then comes Cruz with about 6:30. So you understand, it's all about Donald Trump. Now, he's saying some things that I think are kind of wild. And by the way, I was in the Quicken Loans Arena. He looked stiff. He walked in. They all walked in a procession. And the Donald looked like he was doing a Lindsey Graham at first. I thought, boy, his bottom lip is stiff. His body language is stiff. And when it starts out with that first thing, you could sense he thought it was all about him, and he thought he was being treated unfairly.
Can I just want to stay with you for 1 second? We have to move on to some other stuff. But in the aftermath of the debate last night, there were a lot of pundits saying Donald's done, he's through. Charles, love Charles. He said that's the end of Trump.
Look, he said it last night.
He said that's the end of the Trump candidacy. However, you look today, Time Magazine had a poll, and 100,000 people were polled. Trump got 47% of the votes on who won. Drudge put one up, and 550,000 people voted,
but remember,
and 47% of those people voted.
There's no science to this.
I'm not suggesting it's science.
But I would say, let's say this for the Drudge site. These are conservatives. These are people who are more likely to be participating in the Republican primary process. And they had almost, I think, a sympathetic reaction that their guy was attacked last night. I don't happen to think so. I think
Time, though. I wouldn't call that conservative.
No, but I think that Trump's people are playing game. Everybody's in this game, right. Okay?
KG, can I ask you something? Can you imagine this if there was a President Trump, what the State of the Union would be like? Nancy Pelosi.
I mean,
pay attention here. You could stand up with the rest of them.
Well, I mean, I'm sure people would watch it, right? It would be probably much more interesting because they've been quite dry.
Is it over?
That's exactly what we need. That's exactly what we need. We need an entertainer in chief.
We have one of those.
Because we got Iran, we got ISIS, we got all these problems, but damn, those jokes are funny.
All right, let's move on.
Well, we have a community organizer in chief.
Yeah,
that didn't work out too well.
Although Trump, as Juan just pointed out, got most of the air, a lot of the airtime, much of it from the state of defense rule, where if a candidate gets mentioned, he gets 30 seconds to rebut any accusations. Another candidate got the most questions. Jeb Bush got 8 by my count. He got a few tough questions. Here are some of the snippets from 3 of his answers.
I'm going to have to earn this. Maybe the bar is even higher for me. That's fine. I've got a record in Florida. I'm proud of my dad, and I'm certainly proud of my brother. Knowing what we know now with faulty intelligence and not having security be the first priority when we invaded, it was a mistake. I don't believe the federal government should be involved in the creation of standards directly or indirectly, the creation of curriculum or content. That is clearly a state responsibility.
Dee, how do you do?
Well, I think he locked down his Common Core answer. I mean, even conservatives said, "Okay, well, that was a pretty good answer." If that's where if that's where Jeb Bush says he is on local standards, but at least make those standards high, and here's the reason why: because we need to be able to compete. I think he locked down that answer, and that was good. I'd say his performance was fine, not spectacular, but it didn't need to be spectacular.
Jeb Bush, avoided the target. right? Everything seemed to go right at Donald Trump and right over Jeb Bush's head.
Well, it was one moment when I thought we were going to see fireworks, when Donald Trump said it was your brother who had a catastrophic term and gave us Barack Obama. Right. And I thought, well, here's the opportunity for the governor to come back and say either, hey, look, I love my brother, and I don't think it was a catastrophe. Here's what we did right, and here's the future as I'm going to lead it because I'm not my. But he didn't do that. Instead, he went away from that.
I don't think he has to, because what would the news then be today? That Jeb Bush linked himself to his brother. And he doesn't have to defend George W. Bush. George W. Bush has to defend George W. Bush, and I have to, or like whoever worked in that administration has to. Jeb Bush does not own his brother's legacy, and I think it was smart to let that work out.
But you know, the thing is, Carly Fiorina, in the first debate, she says, we need somebody who's not going to stumble, not going to hesitate. We need someone who can get in there and fight.
Okay, well.
All right, but I agree with Dana. I don't think he needed to defend it. I mean, get over it. Yes, they have the same last name. He is running as his own person for president of the United States. I think you should act like, who cares what his brother did? Decide if you want this man to be president of the United States based on his record and what he would do. I certainly wouldn't want to have to defend then my brother if he was president before. I'd be
and
like,
I know your
listen,
brother.
I'd be like, that's on Mas Macho, okay?
Greg, your thoughts on, did Jeb Bush make his case?
I had an issue with his delivery. I felt that there was a halting style of delivery that I like I'm doing now. It was something where I was stuttering.
Cautious.
Yeah, it was just overly cautious. He just didn't seem comfortable, and I think that hurt him a bit.
All right. Can we move on to this one? John Kasich made his presence known last night. He's the Ohio governor who, although he had the crowd behind him, delivered some really concise and cogent comments, including this very thoughtful statement about gay marriage.
The court has ruled, and I said we'll accept it. And guess what? I just went to a wedding of a friend of mine who happens to be gay. Because somebody doesn't think the way I do doesn't mean that I can't care about them or I can't love them. So if one of my daughters happened to be that, of course I would love them and I would accept them, because you know what? God gives me unconditional love. I'm going to give it to my family and my friends and the people around me.
Both sides, Juan, even on the left, you got to say that's a pretty darn good answer.
I'm not a Republican. I thought he was very impressive last night. I thought that was compassion. I appreciated the emotion that he put into it. You know, his parents died in a car crash, and so he was not only talking about that, he was talking about why he expanded Medicare in the state, why he helps people in prison. I just thought he elevated himself. Now, you're right. It was a home court advantage for John Kasich because he's in Ohio. He's getting cheered right from the start. But right now, it's Kasich and Walker for that Midwest governor. I have a record. And right now, Kasich is challenging Walker for that mantle in the Republican race.
Good analysis, Juan.
Well, gee, I thought you didn't defend your brothers.
I defend them in the playground.
Oh, okay.
Only
when
certain
fists
brothers.
are involved.
Well, I don't want to get beat up.
Yeah.
You know.
Kasich was excellent. That was a great answer, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. And everyone who is in like beauty pageants from here on to the end of time should memorize that answer. You are the crown. You can win the crown.
Or actually,
with that
Republicans,
answer.
because for the longest time, Republicans will always have the target on their back on all social issues. Like these questions are never posed at liberals or Democratic candidates, but. You know, this is progress for the Republicans.
I agree. I think that he had a good debate, and he was one of the last to get in. Gilmore was, I guess, the very last, but of the top-tier candidates, he was the last to get in. I think that was a smart strategy. Although I think that there should be, I'd love to read a story about how he actually got to that decision to run, because for a long time there were people in his circle saying, he's not going to run.
But that was cutting it tight, though, Dana, because he just made the cusp to get in. And Bill O'Reilly was talking about this, saying this is a very likable man with a tremendous record that had a lot going for him. And, you know, even getting in a little bit earlier, you know, just to get a little bit more kind of, movement behind him. Couple percentage points higher.
But at least he made the top 10. And I've said for a long time, like when people get to know John Kasich again, if they've sort of forgotten him, he was on Fox for a while, but if they've forgotten him as a public figure, being reintroduced to him last night, and the folks are going to like John Kasich.
I agree.
We got to go. Juan, if you want to see Scott Walker, his opinion of John Kasich, two Midwest governors with good records. cashing in tomorrow morning.
Wait, was
Oh
Walker
my
on the
God.
debate?
That was a premiere.
Yes.
Very good point.
He was going under the moniker Skywalker.
There was
You
there was
missed it?
80 minutes where Ted Cruz did
Not say a
even
thing.
say
Well,
a
yeah, I
word.
forgot Cruz
80
was there.
minutes.
Is that right?
Yeah. In
Anyway.
fact, he complained about it afterwards.
All right, don't go anywhere because we've got a ton more ahead on last night's debate. And later, Facebook Friday, we answer your questions coming up on The 5.
That's pretty bad from a debate perspective and someone who's like a Harvard debate.